Hello and welcome back. We are doing the second project in the My Girlfriend's Quilt Shop Adult Thready Box. This is so cute, so easy to make once you get the technique down of making half square triangles, and what a fun gift, or make it for yourself. Okay, so let's get started. First thing we are going to go over is what you're going to have in your kit. So in these Thready boxes, you get everything to make this pillow other than the pillow insert. You're not getting that, but you're getting all the fabric and supplies. So you're getting 4 fat 16ths. So a fat 16th is a kind of a funny name for a piece of fabric. Basically, it is a 9 by about 11-inch piece of fabric. The reason we have fat 16ths is if we gave you just a 1/8 of a yard, you're going to get too skinny of a piece. We need the width, but we don't need all that length. Okay, so you're getting 4 fat 16ths in this kit. You're getting a fat 1/8, which is a 9 by about 22-inch piece, and that is going to be of the white background. Let me show you a piece. That'll be your white piece. And then you will be getting a 1/4 yard for borders and about a third of a yard for your backing. And we're going to go over how to cut all this fabric up prior to getting started. Okay, so really important when you are making any kind of project is that you go through, make sure all your fabric is here, and then cut it all out prior to putting it together. That way, if for any reason you're short, you'll know ahead of time what you need to get. So fat 16ths. Of each one of these fat 16ths, you are going to cut a 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 inch square. Now we have 2 different ways of cutting. Because this is a beginner box, you can take your ruler, measure 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, and trace it with a pencil. You're going to just draw the lines here. You always want to even up your edges first on your fabric. Even when we send you a kit and we have nice even edges, always go through and even up your edges first. Okay, so I could cut it out like that with my scissors. Just cut right on that line that I just traced. And after you've done this a while, you can actually even stack fabrics, especially if you're using a rotary cutter. But in the beginning, I do really recommend you're just cutting one at a time just to get that accuracy. Okay, so there is a 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. The other way you can do it, same ruler, grab your rotary cutter, which is a really nice tool to have as a quilter. Measure your 4 1/4, 4 1/4. Hold on to that ruler really well, press down, and you're just going to cut. Just like that. Make sure you got all the way through before you pull it, and there you have. This is actually, once you get the technique down, a much more accurate way of doing it than doing it with lines, pencils, scissors. But if you don't have a rotary cutter, both ways work just perfect. Okay, so we're going to set those aside. You are going to do that out of each of your 4 fat 16ths. So you will have a total of 8 print 4 1/4 inch squares. And then you're going to take your white and you're going to cut 4 of the 4 1/4. And then you're also going to cut 4 3 1/2 inch. Those are going to be the corners of your pillow. So the 4 1/4 will be here, the 3 1/2 will be here. Okay, so you'll cut all those out, set those 3 1/2 to the side, and then what you're going to do is on the back of those whites, you are going to take a ruler, you're going to go corner to corner, and you're just going to draw a line. Okay, and then you're also going to do that on your leftover 4¼ prints, but we'll do that after we do the whites. So you're going to pair up one of each print with a white, right sides together. So in your pattern, we will tell you right sides together the first time, and then after that, you're going to see RST. So you always know if you see RST, that means right sides together. Now we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and I am going to sew 1/4 inch on each side of that line that I drew. We do not want to sew directly on the line. We want to sew 1/4 inch on each side. So let's take this over to the machine. I am going to put this right in here. I have my needle right down the center. Put my foot down. So I know that I am 1/4 inch on each side. Always take your pin out as you are sewing. You don't want to sew over that pin. And we have a real handy little product that we sell here. Let me show you really quick. It is 1/4 inch tape. So it is tape. I don't know if you can see this. It is tape that sticks right onto your machine, right onto the table of your machine. And it has a red line, and then on each side is a 1/4 inch. You put that red line right down where your needle is even with it. And then that also helps guide out here when you're on the outside of your machine's 1/4 inch measure. It helps keep that going straight. So you have a very accurate 1/4 inch. Now I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So that is 4 different prints, one of each print matched up with a white. Now I'm going to bring that back over, and I'm going to cut directly on that line that I just drew. If you have a rotary cutter, you can do that, or scissors. Either way works good. And then we're going to take this over to the iron, and we are going to press it. So when you're doing half square triangles, you usually have a dark and a light. You want to press your square out to the what's called to the dark. So you're covering your dark. And what that does is it prevents you seeing your seam lines, your seam allowances underneath that white. If you were to hold that up and I had it pressed the other way, I would see a seam allowance. So you always try as best as you can to press to the dark. Okay, so we pressed both of those. Now in our pillow, we are using a 3 1/2 inch square. So I made these with 4 1/4. So what happens is my half square triangles, you have created 2 half square triangles, are going to be just slightly larger, which actually works up nice because then I can either use my pencil and scissors, or this is where I really like my rotary cutter. I trim them up to 3 1/2. So I'm not sure if you can see this or not. Let me put this against a piece of white fabric. If you look at my ruler, it has a line right down the middle each way. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to place that line right on that seam of my half square triangle. So I'm looking for a 3 1/2 inch block. So I look out here and I go 3 1/2, 3 1/2. So this way I will get to trim all 4 sides and make a very nice, even, accurate 3 1/2 inch block. So I trim those 2 sides first. I flip it around. This also cuts off what's called dog ears. These little guys that stick out here that we really don't want in our quilts, we don't want in our seams, it trims those right off. So now I flip it over, and this one, I bring it right down to my 3.5, right down to my 3.5, and I make sure that that line is right along my seam. Okay, it's real important because you have a seam in there. Your ruler has a tendency to want to scoot around, so you're just putting pressure on your ruler, holding it nice, and trimming it. You now have a perfect, let me get that off of there. You have a perfect 3.5 inch block. You're going to do that with all of those 8 blocks that you made. Okay, now you have 4 print fabrics left. You're going to take them, 2 of them, put them right sides together, draw a line on the back of the lighter one, whichever one you can see better, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to take that over to the machine. You're going to do a 1/4 inch on each side. So we'll do that on this one. Flip it over, do the other side. Okay, do the same technique that we did before with the white. Bring it back over here. This time I'll use the rotary cutter. Just going to go right on that line that I drew. And then we'll take that over, press it. So this one has a dark and a lighter print. So I'm just going to press to that dark. And I'm not rubbing my iron around, I'm pressing, which means my iron is just sitting right down on the fabric. And if I want to move it, I pick it up slightly and move it. I don't rub the iron. When you are making any kind of triangles or going against the grain and you move your iron, you can actually stretch your fabrics. Okay, so we come back. We would trim these up just like we did before. And then I am going to show you, I'm not going to make all of them, but we've already done them. You're going to take all those squares and just like the diagram shows you, you are going to place them in their right, correct spots. Okay? The colors are little off. We tried to come as close as we could, but you'll get the general idea. After you've made all your squares, they're going to go together. If they don't go together the first time, just kind of move them around until they fit. They will fit in place exactly how they're supposed to. So then you're going to sew your 4 squares here, your 4 squares here, 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 and then you'll sew those rows together. The one thing I did want to show you is when you're pressing, I got a little bit off on there. If you press so that your seams go opposite, you can nestle them in there really nice. Sometimes that's possible, sometimes it's not. It just depends on how you've pressed. But if you can butt them up together, what you want, your goal is to not cut off your points here and to have your seams match up. It doesn't always happen. Depends on how much of a perfectionist you are, whether you're willing to pick it out and do it again if they don't match up. I'm not a super perfectionist. I want it to look good, but I want to be comfortable and enjoy the process. So as a beginner, don't worry as much about all those. Worry more about that you're having fun doing the process. Okay, so we've got our center all put together. We're going to put our borders on. So when you were cutting your fabric, you cut 2 3.5 inch strips with the fabric, and then you're going to cut those into pieces. You can cut 2 3.5 by 12.5 and 2 3.5 by 18.5. So now we're going to put on the 12.5 And I am going to do this because I want to show you how to put the back on. So I have to get the borders on. So it'll take me just a second to get these on, but we're going to put those on there. And once again, you pin if you want to. Pin if it's what makes you comfortable. Pinning is for accuracy. These two are going to fit right on. When I get to the 18.5, I'm going to show you how to pin borders on for accuracy. Okay, we'll put on the other side. Okay, so we have finished putting on the two 12.5-inch borders. We're going to take this over to the iron and press these out. So you're just going, you can always take your iron and heat set it first. It just sets that seam a little bit better, and then just fold them straight out. Press that side. Do the same thing on this side. And now we are going to put on our longer borders. Okay, so I'm going to bring this over here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about putting on borders. This is a very small project. Your borders should fit pretty accurately. If I was doing a quilt, I do not want to just take my long piece of border and just lay it on there and sew it and cut the ends off when I get to the ends. Your quilt, your pillow, everything may not be exactly the same on the outsides as it is on the inside. So what you want to do is you always want to lay it across the middle and make sure that it fits. The middle is what you want to use as your guide. Okay, so that one is going to fit. Now I'm going to take it out here to my outsides. And yes, I am going to clip it on. This is just a little bit longer, and I want it to go on even. I don't want to just take the chance. So we are going to clip this one on along here. Just like this. Okay, we're going to do that with the second border. Same thing. Lay it on there. It's accurate. If it wasn't exact, if it wasn't exactly matching up, say you had either too much border by a 1/2 inch or an inch, or too much quilt or pillow, what you're going to do is you're going to fold it in half. You're going to find your center on here. You're going to fold your pillow in half, and your center should be where those blocks match, because that's the center. And you are going to match your centers first. Okay, so that's going to match up right there. You are going to clip it in place. Then you're going to take and you're going to clip your outside edges in place. Both ends. And then this is where what's called easing in can take place. If this wasn't accurate, say your bottom was just a little bit bigger, what you'll do is you'll just ease in your border in your pillow top into your border. Okay? These were pretty accurate, so I can't show you exactly what I'm talking about. But if you ever come across that, you will see where this might just had an inch too much. So you're going to ease that in to your thing, because what you want is a finished project to be exactly square. If you don't do it that way, you're going to end up with a project that goes like this. Your ends will come out, and we don't want that, especially on a quilt. We want that quilt to be exactly square or rectangular. So I'm going to take these over and I'm going to sew them on, and then we are going to talk about putting your back on. Okay, we are finishing up on those 18.5-inch back borders. Let's lock that end stitch there, and we are done. We're going to press those again. Same way we press the top ones. And this is your ultimate goal, is to have your points of your stars not be cut off. It happens, believe me. Like I say, some people would go back and pick it out. It just depends for me. Okay. We are going to take this back over, and I am going to show you how to do your back of a pillow. Okay, so you received a 1/3 yard. You are going to cut that 1/3 yard into two 12 by 18-inch pieces, and we are going to hem the long side. And I demoed how to hem in the apron, but I'll go over it real quick again. You're going to fold it once and fold it again, press it really good, and stitch it down. So you are going to hem it. You will have 2 pieces with hemmed edges. Okay? So we are hemming the 18.5-inch sides of these pieces. Next, what I'm going to do is I am going to lay it onto my table, and I'm going to move some of this stuff out of the way because I want you to get to see the measuring. Okay, I don't have the end of the mat, but let's see how close we can get here. So my top is 18.5 by 18.5. So my back needs to be 18.5 by 18.5. Well, of course, when I'm adding to 12 or 11-inch pieces, that's not going to happen. What we want to create is an overlap so that your pillow form goes inside, but you're not seeing that pillow form. So you want your 2 pieces to overlap. So I'm going to use the 10 as my 1 here. I'm going to put my raw edge, my long raw edge here, and then 18.5 inches would put me at the 28.5 over on this side. I'm going to put my long raw edge, and as you notice, when I'm laying this, I'm laying it with right sides up. I want to be seeing the right side of the fabric. Next, I'm going to take my pillow form, my pillow top, and I'm going to lay it right on top of there. And if everything is measured out right, this is exactly 18.5. Going this way, same thing, exactly 18.5. So we're just going to lay it right on top there. And then this is where I love the Wonder Clips. I love clips even more than pins because pins have a tendency to sometimes shift your fabric. Clips, you're just going, I just take that clip, I slide it right under that fabric and clip it. I didn't move my fabric at all. I didn't push it, pull it, nothing. It just slips right under there and clips. Now, when you sew this, if you don't clip it together really well, what can happen is you've got those folds. One of them can fold up in your machine. So I always make sure to grab all 3 pieces with my clip there. And the same with this. You have 2 of them. So always grab all of those. And as you're sewing this together, really make sure that you're watching that doesn't get caught up underneath there. Nothing more frustrating than having to go pick it all out because it folded up on itself underneath. Okay? You're going to do that same thing up there at the top. You've got those folds under there. Clip them. And then I just do one on the sides because I don't have any folds on my sides. And then I'm going to take this to the machine. I'm going to sew all the way around. I don't have to leave any openings or anything. We're sewing all 4 sides. Let's do that. Okay, here we go. Take my clip out, get it right in there. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to definitely lock my stitch. I do not want these coming undone, especially on those corners. And we're just going to go all the way around. I'm going to turn the speed up just a little bit here. Stop, and I'm going to look, and I'm going to make sure that all those sides are caught in there. Now, when sewing something like this together, squares, anything like that, some people like to go all the way off. I'm going to show you both ways to do this. They're going to go all the way off. They're going to have a little tail right there, and they're going to cut. And they're going to come back on. Some people feel, and this is just a personal preference, that gives your corner just a little bit more stability. So you can either do that, or let's get that guy to stay down. We want those folds to stay where they're supposed to be. Or what we can do is, as we come to this corner, we can stop at a 1/4 inch and just turn and keep going. Like I say, that is a personal preference. Some people feel like if you sew all the way off the edge, it just gives it a little more strength in those corners because you have finished all the way. You don't have some loose stitches. I'm not that rough on my pillows. Making sure I got all my corners caught in there. Okay, we have finished that. I'm going to bring it back over here, and I'm going to show you one really important thing that I always do when I do anything that has corners like this, is you are going to clip those corners. You want those corners to lay really nice, and you want them to have a real nice point. Hold my thumb right over the stitch lines, and I just clip the fabric right on the outside of that. Do not stitch, or do not cut through the stitch lines. That's frustrating. But if you hold your thumbnail right over the top of those stitch lines, you should be good. You're not going to cut through them. Okay, so you can do all 4 corners. And we are ready to see our finished pillow top. Here we go. Turn it right side out. We have a fun little tool here. It's called a R&K turning tool. It's one of my favorite tools for corners. Grab that. Has a nice, just rounded. It's not going to poke through your fabric, but small enough to just poke those little corners out, just like that. And then after you've got your corners all the way out, you're going to take it over to the iron, and you are going to press it nice and flat. There you go. Finished pillow. Yay, guys. Awesome. When you press it, these will just lay nice and flat. And then this is your back. This is what you want your back to look like. Flap that opens up. Now, one thing that some people like to do, and I'm going to show you on both of the quilts, is they like to quilt it. They like to quilt their quilt prior to putting the back on. So what you would do is you would put a piece of batting, and I like to use muslin or whatever on the back, and then I just stitch inside. You can stitch a 1/4 inch. You can do all kinds of things. On this one here, this is the other colorway of fabric we're offering. I actually did some little swirls and twists and turns on it. So did a little bit of fancy quilting prior to putting my back on. You don't have to, that's not a requirement. But if you want to add just a little bit something to your pillow top, do a little bit of quilting on it prior to putting the back on it. So we have finished your second project for your adult Thready Box. Yay! This is so much fun. You are not going to want to just make one of these pillows. Once you get one done and see how easy it is, you're definitely going to want to make more. This would be really cute in Christmas fabrics, in Halloween fabrics, all kinds of different themes. But have fun and enjoy. Thanks for joining me.